Have you ever wondered why some people seem to win? Not because they're the smartest, not because they're the fastest, but because they simply stay the course. See, we live in a world obsessed with intensity. Everyone wants to go viral. Everyone wants overnight success. But the truth is, the people who change the world rarely do it overnight. They do it consistently, quietly, deliberately, every single day. When I talk to great leaders, they don't tell me stories about the one big moment that changed everything. They talk about the daily habits, the small disciplines, the tiny choices repeated over time that built something extraordinary. Consistency isn't sexy. It doesn't get headlines. It doesn't make you look impressive on Instagram. But it's the foundation of every success story you admire. Think about it. A great relationship isn't built from one grand romantic gesture. It's built from showing up every day with patience, with kindness, with attention. The same goes for leadership. You don't become a trusted leader because you gave one inspiring speech. You become one because you show up for your team again and again, especially when it's hard, especially when no one's watching. Consistency builds trust. Trust builds momentum, and momentum builds greatness. Most people quit not because the goal is impossible, but because the process feels too slow. We confuse progress with speed, but progress is not about how fast you go. It's about how long you can keep going. The gym analogy is simple but powerful. You can't get fit from one workout. You get fit by going regularly. And you don't notice change after one day or even 1 week. But after months of showing up, your body, your mindset, your life, they all transform. The same rule applies to every area of life: business, relationships, purpose, growth. Consistency compounds. I've learned that consistency is an act of love for yourself and for what you believe in. When you show up every day, even when you don't feel like it, you're saying, "I believe this matters. I believe I matter." And that belief is what changes everything. So if you want to succeed, don't chase motivation. Motivation is fleeting. Instead, build consistency, because consistency builds habits. Habits build character, and character builds destiny. The people who win in the long run aren't the ones who did it once. They're the ones who kept doing it over and over with purpose, with heart, and with patience. We live in a culture that glorifies intensity. We celebrate the big wins, the breakthrough moments, the dramatic transformations. Someone goes viral, and suddenly, they're a success. Someone launches a business, and within a year, they're labeled an overnight success story. We love the idea of sudden, because sudden is exciting. Sudden feels like magic, but here's the truth: success that lasts is rarely sudden. It's slow, it's patient. It's built on something far less glamorous: consistency. Consistency is the willingness to do something again and again, even when you don't see results right away. It's showing up when no one is clapping. It's doing the small, unremarkable things that move you 1 inch closer to your vision every single day. Think about it like this. If you go to the gym and work out for 9 hours straight, you will not suddenly be fit. You might feel exhausted, you might even feel proud, but nothing will really change. Now, if you go to the gym every day for 20 minutes, over weeks, months, years, that's when transformation happens. Not because of one intense effort, but because of steady, consistent effort over time. That's the difference between intensity and consistency. Intensity makes noise. Consistency makes progress. When we rely only on intensity, we're driven by emotion, excitement, motivation, adrenaline. It feels powerful in the moment, but when that emotion fades, so does our effort. We stop. We look for the next surge of motivation. We restart and stop again. It becomes a cycle of short-lived effort and disappointment. Consistency, on the other hand, doesn't depend on emotion. It depends on commitment. It's built on the understanding that real growth is not measured by what you do in a single day. It's measured by what you choose to do every day. That's what separates those who achieve meaningful success from those who don't. It's not talent, it's not luck. It's consistency. I once spoke with a leader who told me, "Simon, the hardest thing about leadership isn't inspiring people, it's staying consistent when no one is watching." He was right. Leadership, like success, is not about one big moment of inspiration. It's about the countless small choices you make every day that reinforce your values. It's listening when it's inconvenient. It's showing patience when it's easier to be angry. It's leading by example when it would be simpler to take shortcuts. People don't trust you because of one great act. They trust you because you're consistent. The same applies to our personal goals. We often overestimate what we can do in a day and underestimate what we can do in a year. That's the trap of intensity. It tricks us into believing that success is about effort in the moment, when in reality it's about endurance over time. Look at nature. Nothing in nature grows overnight. A tree doesn't become tall because of one day of sunshine. It becomes tall because every single day, rain or shine, it continues the process of growth, slowly, quietly, steadily. The same principle applies to us. You can't rush mastery, you can't rush trust, you can't rush transformation. You have to earn them day after day through consistent effort. Now, this doesn't mean intensity doesn't matter. Intensity has its place. It can ignite a fire, it can start the journey, but it's consistency that keeps the fire burning when the initial spark fades. Think of any great musician, athlete, or entrepreneur. What makes them extraordinary isn't one brilliant performance or one genius idea. It's the repetition, the hours, the practice, the discipline, the willingness to do the boring, unglamorous work every single day. And the beautiful irony is, the more consistent you are, the less you need to rely on motivation, because consistency builds habit, and habit makes the process automatic. You stop asking, "Do I feel like it today?" and start saying, "This is just what I do." Intensity may bring excitement, but consistency brings peace, the peace of knowing that every step, no matter how small, is moving you forward. That's what winning really looks like. It's not the loud, dramatic victory moment that people see. It's the quiet, disciplined journey they don't. So if you're chasing something meaningful, a goal, a dream, a purpose, don't ask yourself, "How much can I do today?" Ask instead, "What can I keep doing every day?" Because it's not the person who runs the fastest who wins the marathon. It's the person who never stops running. And that's the real power of consistency. Trust is the foundation of every relationship, whether it's between friends, between leaders and their teams, or between a brand and its customers. Without trust, nothing works. You can have the best strategy, the best idea, the best product, but if people don't trust you, none of it matters. But here's the thing about trust. It doesn't appear suddenly. It's not built in a single moment of honesty or a grand gesture of loyalty. Trust is built the same way consistency is built, slowly, quietly, over time. You can't demand trust. You earn it, and you earn it by being consistent. When people know who you are, what you stand for, and that you'll show up the same way tomorrow as you did today, that's when trust begins to grow. It's not about being perfect, it's about being predictable in your integrity. Think about the people in your life you trust the most. Chances are they're not perfect. They've probably made mistakes, maybe even disappointed you once or twice. But what makes you trust them anyway is that you know who they are. You know how they'll respond. You know that their words and actions align. They are consistent. Now think about someone who's inconsistent, the kind of person who says one thing but does another, who's warm one day and distant the next. You never really know which version of them you'll get. It's exhausting, isn't it? Because inconsistency creates uncertainty. And where there's uncertainty, trust can't exist. The same applies in leadership. When a leader is consistent, when their values, their communication, and their actions align, people feel safe around them. And safety is the first step toward trust. It's what allows people to open up, to take risks, to contribute ideas. But when a leader is unpredictable or reactive, people become guarded. They start protecting themselves instead of trusting the process. One of the great truths about leadership is that people don't follow you because you're always right. They follow you because they know they can rely on you, and that reliability comes from consistency. I remember a story a friend once told me about his manager. He said, "You know what I love about her. I always know where I stand. She's fair. She's honest. If she says she'll do something, she does it. If she can't, she tells me why. That's consistency." And because of that, he'd go above and beyond for her, not out of fear, not for a paycheck, but out of trust. It's easy to be consistent when things are going well, but real trust is built in the moments when it's hard to stay consistent, when you're under pressure, when circumstances change, when doing the right thing costs you something. That's when your consistency becomes character, and that's when people really start to trust you. Trust built on consistency is slow to grow, but it's also strong. It can withstand mistakes, misunderstandings, and even failure, because people who trust you for your consistency don't expect perfection. They expect honesty. They expect that when things go wrong, you'll own it, that you'll show up, that you won't hide. The irony is, most of us are taught to chase being impressive, to say the right thing, to perform, to prove ourselves. But people don't trust those who are impressive once. They trust those who are dependable always. If you look at any lasting relationship, any enduring brand, any admired leader, what they all share is not brilliance, but consistency. A company that keeps its promises, even when it's inconvenient. A friend who listens every time, not just when it suits them. A leader who stands by their principles even when the outcome is uncertain. That's what earns loyalty. Because trust isn't built in grand moments. It's built in the small ones, the daily interactions, the repeated behaviors, the pattern of reliability that tells people, "You can count on me." It's a simple truth. Really, consistency is the language of trust. You can tell people your intentions all you want, but they'll only believe you when they see the same actions repeated again and again. And that's what makes consistency so powerful. It communicates without words. It says, "You can rely on me. I mean what I say, and you're safe with me." That's how great teams are built. That's how relationships deepen. That's how leaders inspire commitment instead of compliance. When you're consistent, people stop questioning your motives. They stop wondering what's next. They start focusing on the mission. They start believing, and belief, that's where real progress begins. So, if you want to build trust, don't just make promises. Be the kind of person who keeps showing up in the same direction again and again, through calm and chaos, through comfort and discomfort. Because trust doesn't come from intensity, it comes from consistency, and in the end, that's what turns connection into loyalty and leadership into legacy. We live in a world that glorifies speed. We measure success by how quickly we can achieve something, how fast we can grow a business, how early we can find success, how instantly we can get results. The faster, the better. At least, that's what we're taught. But the problem with speed is that it often confuses movement with progress. Just because you're moving fast doesn't mean you're moving in the right direction. And just because something takes longer doesn't mean it isn't working. Real progress, the kind that lasts, isn't about speed. It's about endurance. It's about your ability to keep going, especially when things don't happen as quickly as you hoped. Endurance is what separates those who dream from those who achieve. Because it's easy to start strong. Anyone can do that. It's easy to be excited in the beginning, when the idea is fresh, when the energy is high. But what happens after the excitement fades? What happens when progress slows down, when things get hard, when no one's cheering for you anymore? That's when endurance matters. I've seen so many people give up, not because their goal was impossible, but because it didn't happen fast enough. They mistook slow progress for failure, but the truth is, slow progress is still progress. Every step forward, no matter how small, moves you closer to something meaningful. Think of it like running a marathon. You don't sprint the entire way. If you try, you'll burn out before you reach the halfway point. A marathon isn't won by speed. It's won by pacing, by conserving your energy, by staying focused on the long game. The same is true in life. You can't live at sprinting speed forever. You have to learn to sustain yourself. That's what endurance really is, the art of sustaining purpose over time, and endurance requires patience. Patience is one of the most underrated virtues of progress, because patience isn't about waiting and doing nothing. It's about waiting while continuing to work, while continuing to believe, while continuing to show up. The truth is, everything meaningful takes time, trust takes time, mastery takes time, impact takes time. And yet, most people quit right before the results start to show. They stop watering the plant because they don't see it growing, not realizing that the roots are still developing beneath the surface. Endurance is trusting that your effort still matters even when you can't see immediate evidence of it. I often tell leaders the measure of progress is not how fast your team moves, but how long they can sustain progress without losing belief. Because the true job of a leader is not to push people to move faster, it's to help them keep going when the journey feels slow. That's what separates those who build something lasting from those who burn out chasing speed. Speed creates pressure. Endurance creates purpose. If you look at nature, there's a lesson everywhere. The seasons don't rush. The sun doesn't hurry to rise. Rivers carve through rock not by force, but by persistence. They keep flowing day after day until the landscape changes. Progress in nature happens through endurance, and yet it's always beautiful. We humans are part of that same design. We're meant to grow gradually, not instantly. We're meant to build resilience through effort, not shortcuts. The longer it takes, the deeper the roots, and deep roots can survive any storm. It's easy to feel frustrated when progress seems slow. But if you zoom out, you'll see that the journey itself is shaping you. Endurance teaches discipline, it builds patience, it strengthens your belief in what you're doing, and eventually it rewards you with something speed never can, wisdom. Because when you endure, you don't just reach your goal, you become someone stronger in the process. So, don't rush your journey, don't compare your timeline to someone else's highlight reel. The person who seems far ahead of you might be running their own race, and maybe they're sprinting toward burnout. Focus on your pace. Focus on showing up. Progress is not about how quickly you can reach the finish line. It's about how faithfully you can keep walking toward it. Sometimes the most important thing you can do is simply not give up today. Because when you keep showing up even slowly, even imperfectly, one day you'll look back and realize you've come further than you ever thought possible. Speed will give you a moment of success. Endurance will give you a lifetime of growth. That's the beauty of progress. It's not a race, it's a rhythm. And the ones who win are not those who move the fastest, but those who never stop moving. We love to believe that big success comes from big moments, the breakthrough idea, the viral opportunity, the one major turning point that changes everything. That's the story we tell ourselves because it sounds exciting. It's dramatic. It makes success feel like magic. But the truth is, success rarely comes from a single moment. It comes from small, consistent habits that quietly compound over time. The human brain loves intensity. It loves the idea of doing something huge once and being done with it. But life doesn't work that way. Great relationships, great companies, great leaders, they're all built on small, repeated behaviors that may not seem impressive day to day, but over time, they add up to something extraordinary. It's like brushing your teeth. If you brush once for an hour, nothing happens, but if you brush every day for 2 minutes, your teeth stay healthy. That's the power of small habits. The effect isn't visible in a day, but over time, it's undeniable. We often underestimate small actions because they don't give us instant results. If you start running today, you won't see a transformation tomorrow. If you start saving money, your account won't double overnight. If you start expressing gratitude, people won't instantly treat you differently. And that's why so many people quit. Because they expect to see a harvest right after planting the seed. But that's not how growth works. Every small act is a deposit into your future. Every small habit is a brick in the foundation of something greater. The gym is a perfect metaphor. The results never show up the day you do the work. You can sweat, strain, and struggle, and then look in the mirror and see nothing. It's discouraging, but if you keep showing up, one day you'll look back and realize your body, your strength, your confidence, they've all changed. Not because of one big effort, but because of countless small ones. That's how life works. Every time you choose discipline over distraction, honesty over convenience, kindness over indifference, you're compounding value. You're investing in a version of yourself that's stronger, wiser, and more grounded. Small habits build character. They form the invisible structure that supports everything you do. But here's the hard part. Small habits are easy to do, and just as easy not to do. That's why consistency is so important. Because when you understand the compounding nature of small actions, you stop focusing on instant gratification and start focusing on long-term transformation. You begin to see that reading 10 pages a day can make you wiser than most people who read nothing. That spending 10 quiet minutes in reflection every morning can make you more centered than most people who rush through life. That telling one person a day how much they matter can make you a source of light in someone's world. None of those things feel huge in the moment, but do them every day for a year and the impact becomes undeniable. That's how habits compound silently, steadily, powerfully. There's something beautiful about small habits because they remind us that change is always within reach. You don't need to change everything today. You just need to do something today. A single action, repeated enough times, can redefine your future. When I talk to leaders, I often tell them culture is built through small habits. You don't build a culture by making a speech about values. You build it through repeated behavior, showing respect in every conversation, listening in every meeting, keeping your promises. Over time, those habits create a culture of trust. The same is true in our personal lives. Love, trust, and growth all rely on small daily investments. Saying I love you, expressing appreciation, listening without interrupting, they don't take much time, but they make all the difference. If you want to change your life, start by changing something small. You don't need to climb the mountain today. You just need to take one step. Because one step leads to another, and over time, those steps compound into a journey you'll be proud of. We often overestimate what we can do in a day and underestimate what we can do in a year. A single act doesn't seem like much, but multiplied by 365, it becomes transformation. And the most powerful part, once small habits take root, they start working for you instead of against you. They become automatic. You no longer have to think about doing the right thing. It becomes who you are. That's the beauty of it. Small habits don't just change what you do, they change who you become. So the next time you feel overwhelmed by the distance between where you are and where you want to be, don't focus on the gap. Focus on the next small step. Then take it again tomorrow, and again the day after that. Because the future doesn't arrive all at once. It's built moment by moment, action by action, habit by habit. And that's where true power lies, not in the big moments that everyone sees, but in the small ones you repeat when no one's watching. When most people think about consistency, they think about discipline, about doing the work, sticking to a schedule, pushing through the hard days, and yes, that's part of it. But there's a deeper side to consistency that we rarely talk about. Consistency is not just about discipline. It's about belief, it's about love. When you show up day after day, even when it's hard, even when no one notices, what you're really saying is, I believe this matters. And beneath that belief is something even more profound, I believe I matter. Consistency is how we express love for our dreams, our purpose, our people, and ourselves. It's the quiet, patient act of honoring what we care about enough to nurture it every day. Not because it's easy, but because it's meaningful. Think about it. When a parent wakes up every morning to care for their child, even when they're tired, even when they're overwhelmed, that's love in action. When a teacher keeps showing up for students who sometimes don't appreciate them, that's love. When an artist keeps creating even when no one is watching, that's love too. We often confuse love with passion, the feeling that burns brightly in the beginning, but passion fades. It's supposed to. Love is what remains after the excitement disappears. Love is consistency. It's choosing to keep showing up, not because you always feel like it, but because you've made a promise to something greater than your emotions. Belief works the same way. If you truly believe in something, a mission, a cause, a dream, you keep showing up for it, even when the results don't come right away. You don't give up just because progress is slow. You stay consistent because your belief tells you that every small step counts, that every bit of effort adds up. The people who change the world aren't the ones who believe only when it's easy. They're the ones who believe especially when it's hard. And that's the difference between doing something out of obligation and doing it out of love. Obligation says, I have to. Love says, I want to. Obligation ends when it becomes inconvenient. Love endures even when it's uncomfortable. When you're consistent, you're making a statement not to the world, but to yourself. You're saying, this is who I am. You're saying, I will honor this path, even when no one sees the work I'm doing. That's belief in its purest form. In leadership, the same principle applies. The best leaders are consistent not because they have to maintain control, but because they care. They show up for their teams again and again because they believe in their people. They believe in the mission. Their consistency gives others a sense of stability, a feeling that says, you can count on me. That's not just leadership. That's love in leadership form, and it's the same in our personal growth. Every time you take care of your body, you're saying, I love myself enough to do this. Every time you practice patience, learn something new, or face your fears, you're expressing belief in your capacity to become better. The truth is, consistency is one of the purest expressions of love because it's not about emotion, it's about devotion. It's not about being perfect every day, it's about being present every day. You don't stay consistent because it's fun. You stay consistent because it's right, because somewhere deep inside, you know the things that matter most deserve your steady attention. That's what belief looks like when it's real, not loud, not dramatic, but quiet and unwavering. And the irony is, when you stay consistent long enough, love and belief start to reinforce each other. The more you show up, the more your belief grows. The more you believe, the easier it becomes to keep showing up. It becomes a beautiful cycle, belief feeding consistency, and consistency deepening belief. When we stop showing up, it's usually not because we're lazy. It's because we've stopped believing that what we do matters. We've lost connection to the love that started it all. So if you ever find yourself losing motivation, don't ask, how do I force myself to keep going? Ask instead, what do I still believe in? What do I still love enough to nurture even when it's hard? Because love will do what motivation can't. Love will endure. That's why consistency always wins. Because it's not about performance, it's about purpose. It's not about ego, it's about care. Every act of consistency is an act of belief. Every act of consistency is an act of love. And when you live that way, when your actions reflect both belief and love, you don't just achieve success. You create meaning. And meaning will always outlast motivation. There's a simple truth I've come to believe over the years: who we become is shaped far more by what we do consistently than by what we do occasionally. Every action, every choice, every small behavior repeated over time, that's what builds our character. And in the end, our character determines our destiny. We often talk about success as if it's something we chase, a goal to reach, a finish line to cross. But success isn't something you chase. It's something you attract by becoming the kind of person who deserves it. And that kind of person is built through consistency. Consistency shapes your identity. Every time you act with integrity, even when no one is watching, you reinforce a message to yourself about who you are. Every time you keep a promise, every time you follow through, every time you choose discipline over comfort, you're building character brick by brick. And here's the thing about character. It's not built in grand moments. It's revealed in them. It's built quietly, in the everyday moments when you think no one is paying attention. When you show up for work even though you're tired. When you apologize even though your pride doesn't want you to. When you choose to be kind when it would be easier to be cold. When you keep pushing forward even when progress feels invisible. Those are the moments that shape who you become. Character isn't about perfection, it's about consistency in your principles. It's about being the same person in private that you are in public. It's about doing what's right, not what's easy. And consistency is the only path that leads there. The truth is, every small choice compounds not just into results, but into identity. When you repeatedly act in alignment with your values, those values become part of who you are. You stop having to think about doing the right thing because it becomes automatic. You stop asking, "What should I do?" and start living by, "This is just what I do." That's character. And that's what defines destiny. Destiny isn't luck, it isn't fate. It's the natural outcome of who you've chosen to become. You can't control every event in your life, but you can control the kind of person you are when those events happen. And it's your character, not your circumstances, that determines how your story unfolds. We admire people with strong character because they give us a sense of certainty. They remind us that there's still power in integrity, still dignity in doing what's right, still honor in being dependable. But none of those traits appear overnight. They're forged in repetition. The soldier who stays calm under pressure didn't learn that in a single moment. It's the result of years of discipline. The leader who inspires trust didn't become that way by giving one good speech. It's the result of consistent honesty and fairness. The person who radiates kindness didn't wake up that way. It's a reflection of small, repeated acts of compassion. Consistency is the training ground for character, and the more consistent you are, the stronger that character becomes. Over time, it starts to guide you. You no longer need constant motivation or direction because your character becomes your compass. It tells you how to act, how to respond, how to lead. That's why consistency always wins, not because it guarantees quick success, but because it guarantees growth. It ensures that, no matter the outcome, you become someone stronger, wiser, and more grounded. And that's what destiny really is, not a single event in your future, but the gradual unfolding of who you're becoming right now. Every consistent action is a vote for the future version of you. Every time you keep going when it would be easier to quit, you're shaping that destiny. We all want to live lives that matter, to do things that last, but lasting impact doesn't come from luck or intensity, it comes from character. And character is the product of consistency. So, if you ever wonder where your life is headed, don't look at your goals. Look at your habits, look at the things you do every day without thinking, because those small, repeated actions are carving the path you'll walk tomorrow. And the beauty of it all is that it's in your hands. You get to decide what kind of person you'll become, simply by deciding what you'll do consistently. In the end, it's not the loudest, the fastest, or the most talented who shape their destiny. It's the ones who stay true to their principles, who keep showing up, who keep doing the right thing even when no one's watching. Because consistency creates character, and character quietly, steadily, inevitably creates destiny.